All right. So thanks everybody for being here. This is our second community call. We're planning on talking about the agenda for the Unconf around East Berlin. So that's like confirming that we want to do lightning talks in the morning and workshops in the afternoon, or discussing other possibilities. And then talking about trying to nail down some people to do lightning talks so that they can begin creating those presentations, and then discussing maybe the format of the workshops, and then we can kind of branch out from there, whatever people want to talk about. Thinking we could just start with an intro for the people who are here. I can start. I'm Kevin Seagraves. I'm currently on contract with Gitcoin and organizing the e-security community. So that involves interviewing people in the security community about their attitudes, opinions, experiences, that sort of thing. And moderating that, helping facilitate the Berlin Unconf with the Securus guys. And then I will pass it off. Yeah, maybe Bryant, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure. Hi, my name is Bryant. As Kevin said, with the Securus initiative, we kind of create sets of development guidelines for developers in the industry to learn how to write correct and secure software out of the box. We're helping organize Unconference in Berlin, and just looking forward to really helping. All right. Magical.
So if people aren't speaking, I did it myself. Yeah, if we could all mute our microphones so we're not putting a bunch of noise into the system, that'd be great. Maybe Dan, do you want to go next? I'm just going to go down the people that I see in my list here.
Sure. Hey, Dan, CEO Trilobits. Yeah, I think that's good enough. I got two people here from Trilobits with me. It looks like Stefan's on the call, and then JP didn't join yet, but he should be here too. Stefan, say hello. Stefan. Okay, maybe skip Stefan. Anyway.
Cool. Isaac, do you want to go?
Hey everyone, I'm Isaac. I'm a blockchain dev at Bloom, yeah, just interested in learning more about everything that you guys can contribute to the contract auditing and smart contract security. Hi.
Hey, I found out why JP is not here. It's full.
Yeah.
You guys, if you want, I have an enterprise Google Suite and can host 50 people at the same time on Google Meet with phone dial-in numbers and recording. If you'd like, I'd be happy to set that up for next time.
Yeah, it was something we talked about. We were trying to get a gauge from the group how many people were trying to attend, and there wasn't much feedback, but that's probably on us as organizers. But Chris Brown from Modular has been helping with the interviews and has already offered the same Google Suite, so we'll probably do that next time.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, just thought I'd throw that out there.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Dan. Jared, do you want to go?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm Jared. I'm on the QuantStamp team. I do community. I was under the impression that Olga was going to join, but maybe we hit the limit or something. She's our VP of strategy. Oh, here's Olga. Okay.
I've been here. You didn't see my face, but I guess you don't believe that I'm here until you see me. So here I am, but I'll let you continue.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so she's here. Yeah, so we're here. Yeah, we're pretty excited about ETH Berlin, and so we were on the last call, and we hope to continue helping going forward.
Well, I guess it makes sense for me to introduce myself. It's good to see some of the familiar faces. Hello, people I met before, and hello, people I've never met before. I'm Olga. I'm in strategy, and I'm at QuantStamp, just like Jared.
Cool. Thanks, Olga. Lucas, do you want to go?
Yes, hello, I'm Lucas. I'm from Solidity Berlin. We're a small group of Solidity developers and auditors. And I'm excited to join this effort for smart contract security. And I'm also excited about the lightning talks on the unconference. And I would like to have a lightning talk about about testing and smart contract security in general. We're at the moment doing a meta audit of audits, and we're especially focused on testing of how testing is treated in the audits.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, we can definitely get a little bit more into that later. Cool, Rex. You look like you're next.
Yeah, it's Rex. I'm working with Brian Roman and Secureth. Our main goal is to help facilitate this whole community and just to assist in its development. And our specific work product, as Brian said, is developer guidelines, but there's much more that could be done.
Okay. Cool. Roman?
I'm also part of Secureth part-time. I'm helping out with guidelines as Berlin and general web dev things.
Awesome. Last one, Stefan, if you're still there. Oh, looks like you just dropped. Okay,
He's
cool.
making room for JP.
Okay. Sounds good. Sweet. So I guess at this point, yeah, we can just start talking about the general outline for the Unconf. We had have it as lightning talks and workshops in the afternoon, like lightning talks in the morning and workshops in the afternoon. So I guess I just wanted to get from the community. I had put that agenda together from what I had heard, and so I just wanted to get confirmation from the group that that is actually what we want to do. And so, yeah, that's kind of like the first point of the agenda. Does anybody have any dissension on that, or is that something everybody can live with?
I think it sounds fine. How many talks do you envision? Total.
Yeah, so I'm envisioning these lightning talks being 10 minutes long, or about 8 minutes, or and that's something we can talk about, like at most 10 minutes with 2 minutes on either side for kind of people to swap out, and having at max 3 hours of that in the morning. I was envisioning more of like an hour and a half to 2, so we could also have some kind of more casual networking times. Is there any opinions on that?
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm worried that there's going to be a lot of, I can see from the forum that there are a lot of people offering to speak. It's going to be difficult curating exactly who gets to. Even with like 15 slots, you're going to have some overflow.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of 5-10 minute talks. That sounds really exciting. That's a really good way for us to get to know each other.
Okay.
Perhaps it might be good to kind of maybe agree on exactly what types of topics should be in the talks. I think we talked about things that help people in the room be aware of what's going on in the ecosystem, being good topics to have in this style format. So maybe that's a better use, so we can actually filter down those lists.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it would be, these are more about what people are doing in the ecosystem that are kind of relevant to everybody. Less trying to, I mean, obviously people are going to be talking about their own companies and what they're doing, but yeah, less trying to sell each other, because we're all supposed to be security professionals, and more about trying to push the industry as or the profession of security and auditing forward, I guess.
Security assessment. Not audit.
Security assessment, yes.
So are you going to make the final list of who's in? Should we all submit abstracts, actually? Maybe that's a better idea.
Yeah,
'Cause it's been very unstructured.
Sure. Yeah, so ideally, ideally we would all kind of agree on stuff, but maybe we do need to take like an executive role and make some, who's in, who's out kind of choices. And if that's what the group thinks is necessary, then I'm happy to do that. And having people submit abstracts would be good, because then we can actually tell what people are going to talk about. We would actually see who is serious and who's bought in, because they'd have to put in that effort to write the abstract. Do we want to request those from the community?
That may be a good idea. If there is something we have in mind, if we have preference for certain topics over others, maybe we could be transparent over that. Unless, it seems like if we're going to be asking people to pitch, we should tell them what the standard for judging will be. Otherwise, it's going to be, somewhat random.
Okay.
Well, just write, like Brian said, write out a small little list of bullet points that says, here's what we're looking for. Make a Google Doc that anybody can edit. And then have people write out, like 50 to 100 words that just describes, I'd like to talk about blah. And then it should be easy for anybody to evaluate whether it fits the mold or it doesn't.
Yeah, and maybe be very explicit not to write more than 100 words, because that will be a lot of words to read. Maybe also ask them to write, 50 to 100 words and general topic word, like categorize their topic, so we can kind of understand where it fits. And that way we can group them together by theme.
Yeah, sounds good.
So far in the discourse, I counted 8 clear topics, and some of them overlap, like the Mithril a roadmap and an overview of the various tools, including Mithril.
Okay. Do we want to get into specific tools, or do we want to do a overview type talk? I guess now getting into what are the priorities for talks.
Well, so if you have a bunch of people wanting to speak about the same thing, which is the reason why I asked to categorize, maybe we give them all 20 minutes, and it's more representation at that point where they can have a dialogue. So we may be able to include everybody, and we may be able to group them, as opposed to give them individual forum and collectively give them less than we would give them individually.
Okay, so this would be something like a group of 5. Let's say there's 5 people who want to give a presentation on a tool they've been creating, and group them together. Give them all 5 minutes each to.
I don't think that's a good idea.
This is starting to sound more like a workshop topic.
Yeah, this is supposed to be introductions about what people have done for the community so far. So just give them the floor for like 8 minutes or whatever you said, and just let them say, here's what I have done and what I have to share.
Okay.
And let's just see how many abstracts we get. And then if you have to, start combining things or like asking people to work together, then we can make that decision later. But I don't want to start off on that foot if we don't need to, right?
Yeah.
So probably put out a formal call, just, tell everybody in Telegram and tell everybody on the forum, like, here is the place that you can write down if you'd like to give a lightning talk. If you want to give a talk, you have to give us at least 50 words about what it is, a maximum 100. And it should fit into like the following frame of reference, and, give people a bulleted list with like 10 items on it. It's like, here's what we're looking for. And I think that's it. And then let's just see what shows up in that doc 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's a good approach.
Another thing with what Dan was saying. Do we want to do introductions? I mean, 80 people doing a 2 to 3 minute introduction is going to take over an hour. So maybe that's another thing we can do with this time.
I'd rather have, so what I'd rather do is collect like a short bio or a statement from everyone that's going to attend, and then make a book out of it and distribute the book.
that from like logistically might take a little time trying to figure out everyone who's coming may not be everyone who's speaking, and then to get that out. We could do it. Maybe there's a better way where there's an introductory thing that gets people to meet each other.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's appropriate for this kind of this one.
Like an icebreaker kind of thing.
A couple of things. We've been using Telegram to frankly introduce each other. There have been a lot of introductions in the Telegram. And it sounds like we're going to have some social activities afterward, right? It sounded like there may be some adult beverages at some point. That will hopefully lubricate conversations as well. Maybe we can also meet for breakfast. So it sounds like there will be points where people can meet and greet and get to know each other. I like the idea of maybe distributing bios or contact information. I think Dan had that idea. That may not be a bad idea, just so that people can later contact each other or prepare for the meeting. So if everybody kind of knows who is there and then has their information, they can follow up and seek certain people out. But it sounds like there's a social situation that will allow us to get to know one another.
Yeah, so definitely don't have like a train of people giving 1 minute or 2 minute introductions. That won't be useful. Just give them something to read and let people read it if they want to read it. And then, like Olga said, go find the person whose bio you thought was interesting and meet them at the bar.
Sure.
I agree. I'm more interested in different opinions of people about different specific topics than just plain introduction. I think that solves itself in the over the course of the conference. And the topics are like presenting different tools should be more a topic of a workshop than a lightning talk, I think.
Okay.
I would disagree with that. I think we have 80 people with 80 different opinions in the room. It's going to get quite loud if we have each person kind of present their opinion. I think the opening session of talk is good for disseminating facts, like what's out there, what's going on. And the workshops we intended to really be collaborative so we can get all those opinions and kind of come to consensus on what to do as a group.
Okay.
Cool. Sweet. So it sounds like we want to do meet and greet kind of before and after, but not really during. Lightning talks are meant to be presenting contributions to the community. This might be like a very brief, like, hey, I've made this tool. If you want to talk about it, let's do that this afternoon. Then that, which is, you know, perhaps it'll be like the audits we've done or the contracts we built or something like that in the lightning talks. And then the workshops would be conversations around like how to build a particular type of tool, maybe about particular tools or about other initiatives in the community, such as guidelines for developers or auditors or something of that nature. Do we want to start fleshing out what the format for the workshops are?
One point to echo there, I liked your suggestion to split it between present and future, where lightning talks are present and workshops are future. So format for a workshop. So I mean, once we collect ideas about, okay, what are the problems we want to solve? And then we raise our hands and elect to go and try and solve those problems. I don't know if there is a real big format. I can do some thinking around like tools, basically, that people can use, that people might be able to help, like, you know, get a productive result and offer some of those, kind of from like a product management background. But I think at the end of it, like it's like the workshop is more defined by what the work product is going to be than the process you use to get there. So what do we want the workshops to accomplish? And it's probably like some kind of one-pager description of, well, here's what we think will be best, and here are the tasks that I'm going to work on. So it's probably a plan.
Yeah, we did talk about that a bit. And what we were looking at is if the output of the work group is something interesting that needs more work, I'm sure we're not going to solve the problems in the period of the work group, then you would actually sort of, the main goal would be that you'd get a couple of people who are saying, okay, we want to work on this after, with the goal of, when you have a couple of lines and ideally even a date that by that time, and then you've got an ongoing working group with a task.
Yeah, so okay, I think, can everyone hear me? So I agree with that. I like Dan's kind of past versus future division between the small and workshops. I like.
That was me channeling Brian, to be clear.
Well, at some point, you guys have merged or decentralized. So I like Rex's idea of having workshops to kind of agree on work that has to be ongoing, that will not be resolved, but may need more time to kind of get some structure in place. It seems to be there's a number of people on this call and in the group have been talking about the guidelines. I think guidelines is kind of a perfect place for that type of workshop. And I can go deeper into what I can propose for this. But it seems like a number of people have done something about it. And it may be a good idea to kind of structure sharing various information of, people publish various things, and we can give them a structure of, hey, before, during, and after audit. And in one document or post-it notes, kind of share what they have in one place. And then we can go back, for example, and reconcile how those things fit together. And then have a regular cadence meetings where we come together and actually polish it and agree as a group what those guidelines or industry practices should be. So that
I can guess what workshop you want to be in.
I would love to attend all of them, but I do happen to like the guidelines as well. I hope you share that passion, because it wouldn't be the same without you.
One thing I wanted to key off there is that we're going to do these workshops kind of in parallel, and then after they're done, I wanted to do a sort of summary, like 5-minute summary session. This is what we talked about. This is what we came to conclusion on, and just like a little bit of a discussion as a group, so everyone's aware of what's happening and all these other things. You don't get that like fear of missing out of like, oh, there's a bunch of things I want to do, but this is the one I picked. So that's what I was thinking.
Yep.
I also, so maybe one more thing for workshops, maybe workshops will find a way for them not to be, because I just thought about your comment, Dan. I actually think workshops, because they give so much form and so much time to an individual, so maybe not to have them owned by one person, but actually encourage people to collaborate and share. So I think guidelines is a place where it shouldn't be Olga or Dan leading it. It should be at least 3 to 5 companies leading it, that discussion, and kind of think through how you have that discussion together and more in a more inclusive way, especially for something like guidelines. I think it's important that the facilitators of the discussion and the participants, it's a very inclusive process, and all the ideas don't come from one source. I think that's what your remark was stemming from, and I think I agree with that sentiment.
Well, that's why we're all showing up to work together.
Yeah, I definitely agree. It should be community-led effort. I think the kind of hypothesis of myself and the Securus team was that there are 4 of us, and so maybe we could help facilitate that conversation to ensure it remained neutral. Except maybe in the case of developer guidelines, since Securus has been working in that realm. Maybe we could. Maybe I would facilitate that, or somebody else. I'm not tied to it. But yeah, certainly we want it to be a community-led effort. But does anybody have any reaction to that? To having kind of a Securus and e-security people acting as facilitators in most of these discussions?
it feels maybe a little centralized, and if that's what we want, it feels neutral, but it also feels centralized. So that
No,
may
it's
be
it's very important to have a facilitator.
yeah, or more than one facilitator, but they're on the same page.
Sure.
I'm actually leaning to have more than one facilitator, but they kind of have a plan.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the facilitator doesn't have a plan. It's the person who has a plan that has a plan. The facilitator is there just to make sure that the communication is progressing in a direction that's appropriate
I think
and
Right.
collect
I
the
mean,
output.
I'm thinking that we might be getting a little bit too down into the weeds of the structure of any particular workshop. I don't know. It sounds like we're kind of just sort of talking a bit more about it. We have decisions on the lightning talks, but are we at a point where we're ready to make decisions on workshops?
So
so
maybe I'll just share what we were envisioning. So last community call, Dan had proposed a process where we bring all the topics that people have proposed through the discourse or topics that have been pulled out of the interviews. If you all want to check out the doc I shared in the group chat here for the live stream or in the Telegram, there's a kind of some initial findings of topics that have been pulled out of those interviews. Kind of present these topics to the group on some sort of note card or whatever, and then sort them onto a grid of difficulty to execute or resource intensiveness versus ease. So it's like difficulty versus ease, and then the ones that are obviously high impact are going to be what's discussed by the group in the different workshops. And so it'd be like a half hour to 45 minutes of the larger group sort of sorting these, what's valuable to us and what are we going to talk about, rather than starting to nail down topics now, or we could start to do topics now if the group decides that's a good course of action. There are certainly some that I think are more obvious topics that people are really interested in. So guidelines being some. There are also some people who think guidelines are not that interesting. And I think the day of, if enough of the group wants to have that conversation, then they should be able to. I don't think we need consensus to have a discussion, but we should have, a significant interest.
Can I ask you before how many workshops are you planning to have? And it sounds like they will be running concurrently. So
yeah, so we're imagining them last for an hour each, and or you could have a topic that maybe it needs 2 hours, but having 2 to 3 working groups. So that would be the group of 80 splitting into roughly 25 each. Or we could break it down even smaller. And that's another point we need to, how big do we want these groups to be? Or maybe it's just people are go wherever they have interest. So it'd be 2 to 3 groups per hour. So we could cover 15 to 20 topics in the afternoon.
Yeah, so we have two smaller conference rooms and a large presentation space we can split into 4, so we can support them all 4 spaces.
25 people sounds pretty high for a working group conducted over an hour. If you have 60 minutes and 25 people, everyone talks for between 2 and 3 minutes each, which doesn't seem like a lot to address hard problems.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely concur with that. I would suggest smaller groups.
Okay.
Did you say smaller then, or?
Yeah, smaller.
Would we want to then have these smaller groups talk about different topics, or could these groups also be, having a conversation about the same topic and then come back together and share what they had discussed?
I think there is no shortage of problems to solve. I think we can probably do unique ones for each.
I'm worried.
Go ahead, Jared.
I'm kind of worried about the it being done in parallel. I mean, obviously there's a interest into different areas, which is good. But I'm worried that if it's all sort of like topics decided as it happens, and then you don't get to participate in a couple that you wanted to or didn't because you didn't have any visibility ahead of time. That's one thing I'm a little bit worried about. I've seen kind of some working groups where that have happened. I've also seen working groups where it sort of happens as it happens, and that's fine. So maybe there's a middle ground somewhere. I don't know.
I think splitting into parallel groups and then doing a summary round, that's what I wanted to do. So like if you are interested in multiple topics, you pick the one you're most focused on or have the most you feel you can add, and then you hear what else is going on in the other group. It's sort of naturally, we need smaller groups to have good discussion, but we need everyone in the room to kind of be aware of what's happening. No decisions are going to be made in these working groups, but good ideas for moving forward is what we're aiming for.
I've also participated in ones where there's sort of a rotation, that there's maybe a couple defined topics, and then you sort of people get to rotate, so they participate in every or a few of the different topics. But I don't know, that might be a little bit too complicated.
JP, you had an idea.
Yeah, so just to talk like more concrete numbers, we have 80 people, 10 groups of 8 people each. Seems like A, that's small enough, the groups will be fairly productive, and B, I think that the space is big enough we could easily find 10 groups that all don't overlap but still really address important problems.
Okay, so maybe one thing we may consider is that there are quite a few topics. We may or may not be able to cover them all, but we can ask the participants to vote, and we can take the top 5 or 10 and focus not on all of the topics, but where the interest lies. So we can basically send some sort of survey and see where people have the most interest. And we admittedly don't have that much time. And so then we can kind of, depending on what those topics are, we can figure out how we optimize the topics and time and everyone's participation. So that may be another approach to do it.
Why don't you just let the participants vote with their feet? So we have a list of topics for the workshops, and then people can just go to the topics they are interested in. The groups don't have to be the same size.
True. The only reason for that is because and so that's why I asked about concurrent. There will be concurrent workshops. And so there will be opportunity cost, right? If I want to be at 2 workshops at the same time. So that's why it may make sense to actually find out what the interests are. So I like your approach too. But I'm also, go ahead, Ken.
So I think voting with your feet is a good sorting mechanism. Like, I don't want to force somebody to talk about something they're not interested in. I also don't want to force somebody to miss something they're interested in. But if we had a topic that had a lot of people, we could also break into smaller groups around that topic. So let's say, okay, maybe we have two conversations or 3 conversations about 3 different topics happening at the same time. People can vote with their feet on what they think is most interesting. And if one has, like, let's say 40 people, we can break into 4 smaller groups within that conversation.
Or maybe if something has an overwhelming amount of interest, maybe we are all together trying to figure out how we do things. I mean, there are multiple ways to do it. So maybe finding out, ask everybody to share their top 5 or 7 or 10 topics, and then see where the concentration of interest is, and maybe go from there.
I mean, I definitely think that people should have agency in choosing their groups, but I'm unconvinced that should happen at the event itself. I think it'd be a really good idea to start talking about working groups now and letting people self-organize now. And then when we arrive in Berlin, we have what's effectively a nice agenda. We already know what we're going to work on and can even show up with resources prepared. And that seems far more productive to me.
Okay, I'm fine with that if we have a clear idea.
So are we suggesting then people who are attending these meetings are kind of grouping together, or are we doing it on Telegram? Because people who attend here clearly express more interest in shaping this than people who aren't.
So if I had to choose my ideal approach, I would draft a list of working groups. I know we've had a little bit of a conversation like this even internally at Trail of Bits. I would put it on the discourse, and I would let people, say, I'm really interested in working on this. This is a topic that I'm interested in that you didn't think of. What would you think about having a group like that? And then, yeah, we can sort it out in the discourse and in the Telegram and come to Berlin prepared and ready to work.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I kind of like JP's approach. I think that's a great approach.
Sure. So how do we? What's the next steps after this? Following this call to make that happen? Is it do each of us individually go and just write stuff we're interested in and try to form a group, or should we do a survey of interest across the Telegram to see which topics should rise to that level?
I'd be happy to just post some of the stuff that I think is important on the discourse and start a thread. And if there's demand in the Telegram for other topics, or other people want to post working groups they think make sense, then I think we can, reach consensus pretty easily.
Okay.
Do we want to leverage the list that you created, or do we want to start from scratch? By you,
yeah. So the list that I created is just meant to seed ideas. So I'm not married to any of those ideas. They're just some of them they're pretty clearly topics that many people have brought up in the interviews. And so maybe I can kind of do a little bit of pulling out of that and say, hey, these are the top 10 or 15 ideas. And then just kind of post that, maybe these should be groups is a way to propose that. And then I can go from there. Does that?
I mean, it seems to me it's a pretty good list. I like the list. JP, does that go along with the approach you suggested, or do you want to start from scratch?
No reason to start from scratch if we already have a good list. Happy to start with that and modify it as people see necessary.
Sure. Yeah, and it should be an edit doc. So if anyone wants to add anything or move stuff around or whatever, yeah, feel free.
Yeah, I think it's a.
So there would be 2 Google Docs, one for lightning talks and one for working groups. And if the topics is there, but it doesn't get any traction, there's no writing under it, then there's obviously not a lot of interest in it.
Yeah, so there was the, right, so for lightning talks, we're planning on having a doc that people can write an abstract about what they want to present on. And then I guess I would have some executive decisions on what's a valid lightning talk and what is not. So stuff that's contributions to the community, telling about people what they're doing now, what they've done in the past. Those are good topics. Thinking about what is in the future that's reserved for the afternoon. We definitely don't want too much shilling going on. And then a doc for the workshops would be possible topics. And then I think JP was suggesting we use the discourse, have a thread for each pot, starting to form working groups. Is that what you were suggesting, JP?
Yep.
So we have the doc. We have the doc of possible topics, and then we are trying to form working groups within discourse.
You can use discourse to create a wiki for things, and you can have that wiki be editable by everyone, and then you can have a discussion below that. So maybe that's a way for at least the workshop, have people sign up.
Okay.
And as far as the lightning talks, maybe we can do a really quick, there's online voting things. Once we have a list of topics that everyone wants to present with all the abstracts, just give everyone 3 votes or whatever and see what comes out of that.
I like both JP and combination of JP and Brian's idea, because that way the conversation enough, by the time we get to Berlin, the conversations are not from the very, very beginning. Some of the substantive conversations beyond hello have been happening. And it sounds like that is a pretty good mechanism to get there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think people will definitely self-organize to some degree, especially about what they're really passionate about.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Sounds like we've got some action items. Does anybody have anything else they want to discuss on these topics, or do we want to kind of move forward to something else?
I just wanted to confirm, JP, is this list that was already created by you, Kevin, in the agenda that we're looking at, or this is in the discourse, or is it both?
So the list that we're talking about, I've shared it in the group chat here, so you all should have access to it directly from your browser. And then I've also shared it in the Telegram chat just before this discussion started. I'm not sure if I shared it before or not to the group, but it's just a list of stuff that has come out of the interviews. So it's pretty general.
Okay, I got it here. Thank you.
Sure. Sweet. Is there anything else that people want to talk about? Other possible topics I had written down were talking about different.
So
Sorry,
I hate to ruin the conversation, but can we talk about the most important part? How we're gonna like actually have social and good time? And
yeah, where we
get to know each other. Because the substantive conversations are fun, but I actually want to meet all the people and get to know them as people. So maybe we can put some thought into the social activities as to when and how and where as well.
I can reach out to, I don't know if anyone knows any good places out there. Maybe there's a, do, I don't know, or do something after, I don't know.
I had
Mary Paul suggested a couple of places. You had them, Brian, didn't you?
Yeah, I put them in a fellowship forum on their discourse. There's a couple options I found there, so we can start a little discourse entry about where people want to go get a beer afterwards.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like we're putting a lot of thought into substantive discussions. This is the first time this group is meeting, so it's also, I think, to some extent important that we enjoy it, look forward to doing it again, and have a balance of, substance and fun. I can't be the only person who wants to have fun, right?
Oh, I totally agree. And it's important, if we're going to be able to work after this, it's important that we get to know each other before, so that the connections are there and people want to work together. Totally agree.
Do we have somebody? Is anybody who knows that area pretty well? Because it's a little hard to plan remotely. So maybe some specific suggestion from somebody who is from there would be helpful.
I was just going to reach out to Maria of Gollum and Afrin Parody and see what their thoughts are.
Yeah.
The Parody office is a block away from the meeting venue for East Berlin. Also, my sister lives in Berlin, and I lived there in 2016 for the whole year.
Oh,
I know a few places,
open
but
recommendations.
Not
so you're
sure.
Local then.
Ish.
Well, no pressure. You're gonna be the lead on the social committee then.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to recommend a few places that I remember that were really fantastic, but I don't know too many event spaces that can hold 100 people. That's a little bit different. Like I have a list of favorite bars I go to, but
who here was at EdCon? Did anyone go out that one of those nights on that pub crawl? That was organized by Ziggy and myself a little bit. It was kind of it was a little bit like it wasn't super organized, but a lot of people showed up and it seemed to work more or less. That could be a structure for that. I don't know how important it is for that, or we can just find the venue, but there's options. People seem to have had fun on that one.
Okay, cool. Sounds good. We had some talk with Cassandra from the ECF. Are we still planning on doing lunch recs? And was there breakfast included in that too, or so we could have like an hour beforehand?
Yeah, I'm waiting for MP to get back to us so that we can do the detailed planning of that. But yeah, we were looking to have something, at least snacks and lunch. We can talk about breakfast.
Okay.
Breakfast, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, have like an hour to hour and a half before people could start to gather and chat beforehand. Or were you imagining something more formal, Olga?
No, I was just thinking, don't forget the water. Because you talked about snacks and food, but water is kind of important.
Understood.
Awesome.
I just want to make sure people don't have a reason to leave, and food and water are usually the reasons to go venture. And having been in Berlin a long time ago when I was little, there are many reasons to not come back. So.
Okay. Cool. Sweet. Anything else on the Unconf that we want to chat about? Or we've got 13 minutes left on the scheduled call, so happy to keep going down that path. Or if we want to talk about,
are we going to
assessment or auditing or review type terminology, or
are we going to film it similar to how EIP0 was, and then have it out there, or?
Yes. Yeah, we have live here coming in that they're going to help do the filming. I'm not sure how many cameras they have. So I know.
Oh no! I was just going to say we shouldn't do that, but go on.
The lightning talks, I think, would be good to videotape in case someone's interested in learning more about it. And the workshops themselves, I'm not even sure we can do it to begin with. B, I'm not sure it's a good idea. But that's kind of why I wanted to have the summary sessions afterwards. We can film those summary sessions and get like a good feeling for what was discussed and what was the output of that and what's going to happen moving forward, so everyone else, kind of externally is aware.
My worry is if it isn't filmed, then what we'll have is a situation like that had at EIP0, where there's accusations of centralizations on CoinDesk and stuff. As much as we are talking about security and there are stuff that we have to be careful about. I also know that this being a gathering of mindshare can easily attract criticism.
And pretty hard to say this is anything centralized when we've got 100 people that represent like every major security firm, and
so did EIP0 though. That was exactly, and they had someone from CoinDesk in the audience as well, and it was still
right.
Accusations of it. And actually, because there's a lot of people, then that's more of an argument towards it.
I mean, I'm not really concerned about what people say. I just want to help the community move forward. So
same. I just
I don't think this matters.
No, fair enough. I'm just it can become a distraction, but by putting it out there and having it filmed transparently and out there, then it's a little bit better assurance for the wider community. And
so the lightning talks being filmed and published is cool, but I think for the workshop, the output should be kind of like a what now, like the plan that people come up with should be something that can be shared. So like the how the sausage got made isn't that important, but like what's the output? Like what do we want to do? And all these things, like no one's really deciding anything. We're all just collectively agreeing that here are some things that we're all going to individually or as groups work on together.
That's the same way Zero was. They didn't film the workshops.
Yeah. I agree with Dan. It sounds like the shorter ones make sense to film and edit and make them independently standing. The workshops, the individual organizers, facilitators of the workshop can decide what the output and the group can collectively decide what happens after. And we don't need to kind of record the play-by-play of that.
Okay. Cool. Sounds like some filming might be good to have transparency, but we don't want to have too much, because then that also restricts us. Any other comments on the filming aspect of it? Do we know when we're gonna have those conversations with Life here, Bryant? Like when will we know how many cameras there'll be and stuff like that? Do you have any kind of vision on that?
I was emailing them a bit ago, but they didn't reach back, so I'll make sure to do that again right now.
So it may not be a bad idea. I mean, both Jared and Dan brought a valid point. So just to the extent we're filming or taking photographs, it may be a good idea to let people know what will be filmed and what will not be filmed, and same with photography. So if we're not, I'm guessing we're not going to be photographing social events, or maybe we will. Maybe it's worth letting people know what will be happening, just so it's not a total shock.
I'd be of the opinion that the best way to do this is to identify explicitly what will be filmed, and then everything else that's not identified won't be. Like, I think the lightning talks and the after action report are like possibly worth filming, but I want to be free to say what I want. Like in these workshops, like there's going to be, we're all security people, so there's going to be a lot of things that we're upset about and a lot of silly technical decisions we're going to criticize. And I don't want to say something in a private setting that somebody else later gets the replay on and finds offensive. That's fair. Their pet project. So maybe let's just stick to the lightning talks, and then for after the workshop thing, like let's publish text documents that summarize the activity.
I also
and again,
want
these aren't decisions; they're like plan of action. Like, here are some things that I, in my personal capacity, working for my company, I'm going to try and contribute to. They're not like decisions about the technical direction of the entire community. So I find it hard for people to argue with it after the fact.
Yeah, valid point. I just wanted to add the photography to that as well. Whatever will be photographed, if we're going to have a professional photographer there as well.
I don't think I need any pictures of me drinking. I got an iPhone.
That was, I don't think photographer was in scope.
Yeah, good.
At the Wallet Unconference, the guys from the Zero Knowledge podcast were there and did a bunch of interviews with different people in the crowd. I like that podcast. I listened to it after the fact. I don't know if inviting those people might be a good idea, to just like feel like people have more insight, but it's a little bit more curated.
The Zero Knowledge people are parody people, aren't they?
No, one's parody, Frederick from Parody. The other is, I think she's just an independent person that's doing that.
Yeah, so maybe Frederick's down the block.
Does anyone know if Horace Mann was involved with the filming of the Wallet Unconf, or was that just the recent ETH Magicians? He might be someone to reach out to for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, he might have opinions on that. I think LiveCare itself is confirmed because they're doing all the ESF Berlin stuff. But yeah, we can definitely. I have been talking to Boris as well to kind of get their opinions on what works and what hasn't for their event.
Boris is great. He's awesome. Fellow Vancouverite.
And so all of this, just one more question. So all of this will be constrained to one day. There will be no a day before or a day after anything going on for this gathering.
Well, it's meant to be the day before ETH Berlin, so that we can all gather, get momentum, and if there were to be projects that we're going to have these outcomes that are action steps to move forward. It's always possible that a group could continue working on this over ETH Berlin. That's kind of a vision I saw as, if someone did want to create a CVE of bugs, maybe that'd be something that they would do as a ETH Berlin project. Yeah, Dan's not a fan, but it's something people have talked about. I'm just saying it's a possibility.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm really happy that we have an opportunity to do a hackathon afterward. That's a good thing. I would have suggested that if we didn't already have the pair up with ETH Berlin. So good thinking.
We could
Yeah,
have a beer in Berlin on the day before if you arrive early.
Yeah.
We could put it out there someplace in the
Sure.
neighborhood, because I think a lot of us will be there the night before.
What neighborhood is it in? I didn't actually look up the location yet. Like, what part of Berlin is it?
Gorlitzer Park.
Say again?
Gorlitzer Park.
Wurlitzer. Okay. Let me check my Yelp bookmarks.
Cool. Yeah, it sounds like a good idea as well. More social time.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, we're coming towards time. I feel like I've got a much better definition of the agenda. Anybody have any last remarks before we close out?
Oh, it's in Kreuzberg. Okay, this is good. That's where my sister lives.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
You have a place to stay.
Will you be able to
no
be
way.
unconstrained? As you
Say
were
what?
worried about. Will you be able to be an unconstrained version of yourself?
Oh yeah, no. I mean, I already planned this as a fairly long trip for myself, so I could spend some time. I haven't seen her in like 2 years, so since I left Berlin in like 2016. So I'm gonna stay there pretty much the whole week. I'll get in on like Sunday. Yeah.
Awesome, guys. Anything else, or we can all end the call at this point?
So Kevin, for next time, we're gonna have a better definition for both the short talks and the workshops, and we can make some final decisions. Then is that kind of the plan for in the next 2 weeks? Next 2 weeks, Friday.
Yep. So action plan, action steps leading this call. So we want to create a doc where people can do abstracts for lightning talks. I'll probably need to convert some of the comments on the discourse into that doc. And have a kind of a couple bullet points about what we are looking at for those talks, because it's not really defined right now. So that's one aspect of it. And then the other is taking a top 15 or 20 ideas out of the current kind of topics list and posting those so that people can begin to form some working groups before the conference and start to have discussion around that. They can come with resources. And so that the next call, yes, we can start thinking about the proposals that, or the abstract that people have submitted. And kind of giving it a thumbs up, thumbs down sort of thing, and probably do the same for workshops as well. Does anybody else see anything else that we need to do as an action item beyond the nitty-gritty planning of the conference?
Yeah, get a good list of drinking establishments in the neighborhood.
You read my mind.
Sounds like a plan.
I am down with that.
Cool. Sounds good. Well, thanks for being here, everybody. I really appreciate it. I think we're on progress to have an awesome event and really do some great things for the community. So much appreciated.
Cool. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Adios, everybody.
Thank you. Until next time.